everybody, I'm James, and my presentation is on DC Comics, more specifically DC Studios, and even more specifically, will James Gunn, the new CEO of DC, will he be able to save the studio? Because it's been having some trouble. So, and if you guys don't know who James Gunn is, he is the director of Guardians of the Galaxy and plenty of other Marvel films. And he's been moving on to doing more management and studio executive work up in DC with Warner Brothers. So let's go through it. So, table of contents, we're going to be talking about how did James Gunn actually get the job, what is DC doing right now as a brand, and where does the brand go from here, and what the new Superman movie is all about, and what is the rebrand for DC going to look like, and what is the storytelling, and what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for DC. So a little backstory, it's quite of an extensive, there's been all sorts of drama in like the past 10 years with Warner Brothers and DC, all sorts of different executives and management mishaps and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure if you're an animation student especially, you probably heard of David Zaslav. He's a controversial studio executive. I think the one silver lining to his new executive leadership in Warner Brothers is hiring James Gunn for DC. The reason why James Gunn got the job in the first place is because initially he was fired by Disney for controversial tweets that he's done, and he's been looking for work with Warner Brothers, and that's how he came up with the new Suicide Squad. Then he got rehired by Disney, finished up Guardians, and then he went back to DC. And there's been the whole Snyderverse thing. And so the problem with, this is Zack Snyder. He was the original creative vision for the DC extended universe. And this DCEU was basically Warner Brothers trying to replicate the MCU's success by having an interconnected cinematic universe. But the problem is that like the audiences and the critics weren't enjoying it as much. And the only people that were really enjoying it are Snyder fans. And they can be a little bit picky, and they don't have the strength to go for wider audiences, and so it's been kind of limited, and they've been trying to catch up with the MCU. But nowadays we have superhero fatigue, and so there's a real opportunity to find new audiences and to broaden their horizons with who they can attract and who they could bring in as loyal brand followers, basically. So what is DC doing right now? So, as I said before, there was the DCEU with Zack Snyder, but recently in like the past like 5 years or so, DC has been like doing all sorts of different content, all sorts of different canons and continuities. There's been Teen Titans Go in the animation for Cartoon Network. There's been Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is separate from Joss Whedon's Justice League. It gets really confusing really quickly as you go through it. It's really complicated. But there's also Joker, Todd Phillips, and that's a rated R Scorsese style movie, which is separate from that. And then you get Harley Quinn, and then Superman and Lois, and Robert Pattinson's Batman, which is a completely new Batman. And so if you're just a general audience goer, you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, who is connected to who? And James Gunn knew this, so he decided to distinguish everything. And so he wants to make a mainline continuity where animation, television, movies, and even video games could be interconnected in a continuity universe, but also have a separate brand for DC Elseworlds, which is like independent content that is more creative and expressive, to make it really clear for audiences what they're getting. He rebranded it to DC Studios. It used to be called DC Films, but he really wants to expand it into video games, television, and animation, and he really wants to expand it. But the real big introduction is the new Superman film, starring David Cornsweet, directed by James Gunn himself. And so this is really combining the best of both worlds. So you have the cheesy, lighthearted Christopher Reeve Superman, and you have the dark and gritty, emotional Zack Snyder. And he's trying to find a compromise with the two and to be able to bring hope to audiences again and to rebrand what Superman can do and what he could show audiences, what he's capable of. And there's a lot going into this film, because if this movie isn't successful, like, it really determines where this studio could go. So there's a lot of pressure into it, and would it be able to fly? So I've seen the trailers. The trailer is out now, but I'm pretty excited for it, and it comes out this July. And so rebrand. So this is the DC logo throughout the years. It's gone through many different changes. It used to just be a comic book company. Like, that was strictly what they did. But they've been licensing with Warner Brothers to make movies and television. And they eventually got bought out by Warner Brothers. All sorts of different ownership and all sorts of different drama and stories with the studio. But now is a new era for the brand. So I'm excited to see what they will do next. So this is James Gunn on storytelling.
Anyway, those are the stories that I can tell you about right now. I've loved the DC characters since I was a child. They're incredibly important to me. I knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something very different. One of the things that's very important for me in all of these movies and TV series is that the director's vision and the vision of the writers and all of the creators is unique and something special. Storytelling is always king. That's all that matters to us. And I want to be true to those stories. I want to be true to you guys and really give you something different than you've ever seen before.
His DC slate for next upcoming film. So he has film and television so far. He's got a new Superman movie, his own passion project, Peacemaker, that's getting a season 2. Creature Commandos, as I said. They actually showed a little bit of it at SCAD Film recently too. A new Green Lantern show, which I'm excited for, because the last time they did a Green Lantern was with Ryan Reynolds, and that was not as good as it should be. And all sorts of different unique concepts too, like Swamp Thing, which is a swamp creature, I think in Florida, which is kind of crazy, and it's kind of a horror movie too, so we're excited for that. Finally, I'll go through the SWOT analysis. So the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of this new rebrand. So they already have the iconic characters. They have all the tools that they need. And they are a billion-dollar industry. They definitely have the money. They just need to spend it wisely on projects that are valuable to audiences. The weaknesses is that it's so confusing for general audiences. And so it's very important to make it more concise and more approachable for audiences. And there's also picky toxic fans, so you can't please everybody. So you just need to find a vision that is cohesive and is true to you. Opportunities, so there's new stories to be told here. And we could go really experimental with where we want to go. And then we also have new creatives, new storytellers to go after. Not just the same old people, just go into and try to experiment. And the threats is confidence and fatigue. So there's superhero fatigue, as I said, but there's also confidence issue. We need to be able to tell stories unabashedly and to be able to find stories that are that you could show in its fullest potential as well. So that's the SWOT analysis for DC Studios. And thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you.
Cyrus, you're up. Wasn't Swamp Thing like a
It
movie like in the 60s or something?
It was made in the 60s, but they're remaking it and for new audiences.